else that was pretty easy to start to have the conversations because she noticed that right away. You're not the same color as me and my dad. You're darker. Like she noticed that. And that was just, and I expected that. And we never shied away from that conversation. Yeah, why is that? What's in the skin that makes mine darker than yours? And asking those really simple questions and letting her provide some feedback about that. What are you thinking? Talking about what melanin is, right? Like how do you get darker skin? And we did these little investigations, nothing difficult, right? She asked the question, I don't know, let's go looking. Pick up our phone, we go on Google, look up some information, but doing all these really intentionally, saying, I don't want to not talk about this. One of the things that resonates in my head is thinking about a resource that has been around for a long time, the book on anti-bias education for young children from NACI, and thinking about the way it talks about how silence holds power, right? That in silence, you hold the power. You, the adult who refrains from having the conversation, you hold all the power. And the signals you send to children is one, to be fearful. You send power, you send a message that you're gonna have to figure this out on your own, right? They're gonna be relying on whoever, their friends, the TV, other people to tell them what that is. So you rob them of that ability to be empowered by the language. So when she started to talk about that, we did at that time and still to this day, talk about race. We use books to define the terms. There's some really great children's books that define things like racism. What is that? She's 6 now, and she was asking me, she said, what is racism? And so it's racism. And we talked about that. How does this book define racism? And what does that mean? How might that show up? And she's she's my daughter. I know her. She's ready for that kind of conversation, but not all children will be. So if she weren't ready for that, I'd scale that back some and say, well, what is race? What's that, right? It's difficult for adults to understand that that's this construct, right? Then here, how do I translate that for a young child? But it starts with knowing the children, getting to know them, and then starting to say, oh, so they need a level 1 sort of introduction to this, or you have children who will sit with you for 30 minutes and you can have a really in-depth conversation that involves some investigation online, reading through books or asking more questions. So it really is about getting to know those children.
Nicole.